So I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen or heard by now a lot of the changes coming to Gunsmith, specifically in Modern Warfare 2 coming up, and this has got a lot of people concerned, and we're going to be talking a little bit about how the Gunsmith exactly works today and how I think it will affect the gameplay, but I'm also going to talk about something else besides that that does scare me a little bit about Modern Warfare 2. Now, all things considered, I am pretty still excited for the game. I'm genuinely looking forward to getting my hands on it, but there are some, let's just say, questionable circumstances that might affect the quality of the game. But the first thing I definitely want to talk about, which is one of the core fundamental changes to Modern Warfare 2, is Gunsmith. So first of all, let's talk about how it works in this game. So this image is from Exclusive Ace, and this is essentially a mock concept of what the Create a Class system will look like, or the Gunsmith will look like in Modern Warfare 2. So of course, on the top section, you have weapon attachments, and then on the bottom section, it's where things get interesting. We now have weapon parts, and I'll briefly just explain the differences between the two. Attachments in this game are going to be more plentiful, but they're going to be your primarily smaller stat changing effects, like, you know, being able to change the laser sight, maybe a bit better hip fire, or your underbarrel, maybe a slightly better grip to control vertical recoil and so on. Just a lot of like smaller, but, you know, still somewhat meaningful benefits, but the real big hitters are going to be the weapon parts, and these are things like your actual receiver and your barrel and so on. Before we got this info, it was pretty much leaked that Modern Warfare 2's Gunsmith would have like 70 plus attachments for everything, which isn't exactly true, but you can sort of see what the point of that was. It's like every attachment in some sense is going to have a multitude of different variants, and you're also going to be able to tune attachments as well. And so what does that mean? Well, again, this is an image from Exclusive Ace's video, but basically what this is representing is you can now tune attachments to on a spectrum or a slider to behave a certain way. So for example, you can have a barrel that is a lot heavier for recoil control and your gun's going to be more steady, but you're going to have to sacrifice a little bit of aim down sight speed. It's a bit of a give and take. And then on the other side of that coin, with something like stocks, you can go with a longer stock and you have way more strafing speed. You can move a lot faster while aim down sights, but your gun is not going to be as steady at long ranges over long periods of time. Whereas if you go with the shorter stock, you can kind of tune it to the opposite. Here's the problem, I think, with this entire situation though, and the entire attachment slash gunsmith system in general. Not only is this significantly too complex for COD Arena multiplayer, but I also believe that having way too much choice in every single aspect is just as bad as having not enough choice at all. As soon as there's like more than 12 options for any given thing, or like an attachment in this case, a lot of people are just gonna feel overwhelmed by it and really not even care to look into it or investigate it too much, and they might just pick a thing because it's there, and it's kind of defeating the entire system. In original Modern Warfare 2, you could only pick one attachment for your gun, and I'm not saying it's a fair comparison or that we should go back to that system, but the point was you basically had to pick one bonus to your gun and stick with it and adapt your playstyle based on that thing. With this new upcoming Modern Warfare 2, I guarantee you the intended design system is so that there's like basically infinite replayability and tons of variety in between, you know, people's class setups and whatnot, but I actually think it's going to have the exact opposite effect. I think most people, because there's a billion choices basically for everything, they're going to find, you know, a few class setups that they really like and not deviate from that at all. It's going to be almost anti-experimental. I'm happy to be wrong about this, and I hope I am, but I think this system is unnecessary and shoehorned in for COD multiplayer. The reason it works in something like Escape from Tarkov is that game's systems are complex enough to complement what it is. So, for example, there are different armor types, and different ammo, you know, calibers and grains and so on, will affect armor in different ways. So it's extraordinarily complex how it works. But for COD multiplayer, I don't think a system like that is necessary, and I think it's focusing effort in the wrong direction. And not only that, but it may end up having the effect where guns don't really matter. And what I mean is you can basically turn a weapon into anything else for the most part, you know, with some restrictions obviously, but through attachment tuning, you can basically make different weapons of the same class behave pretty much the exact same. And that's why I think it's going to have an inverse effect on the overall variety within gameplay. Think about it like this. Imagine there's like a mathematical optimal formula or a way to, you know, optimize your attachments and weapon parts parts and everything, you can pretty much apply that exact same formula to every gun, and it's gonna make everything feel the exact same. That's my fear with this entire system, and not only due to the fact that it's overly complex for what Call of Duty is, it just seems really counterintuitive to me. Again, I understand what this system is going for on paper, and I'm looking forward to actually trying it myself, and I hope to be wrong, but I really do think it's going to have the exact opposite effect of what they're going for. Now, all the Gunsmith stuff aside, I'm sure you guys have probably investigated this yourself a little bit too. There is one other thing that really freaks me out about this game, and that it has nothing to do with Gunsmith. This is the fact that there are basically every studio under the sun is credited on this game, and you may have missed it in the trailer, but it's right at the end. You can see that there are like 6 or 7 different studios that are credited on this project. Why is that a bad thing though? And it's not super obvious up front. I do think it was inevitable that Infinity Ward was going to have tons of help on this project, because obviously another Call of Duty game is not releasing next year, and we're going to have Modern Warfare 2 for 2022 and 2023. So they're going to be bringing a lot of content between multiplayer, campaign, DMZ, and Warzone 2, whatever else they've got working on. But it does freak me out a little bit that like literally every single Call of Duty studio is having to help out with this project. Every single game that is having a troubled development, whether you like that game personally or not, let's say Call of Duty Ghost and Modern Warfare 3, there's a bunch of other examples, but any game that has had a really troubled development has always had to have a bunch of support studios on the project. Even both Sledgehammer and Treyarch are credited on this project. Again, we don't know specifically what areas or branches of the game they're working on, but to me, the fact that like there's a ton of studios working on a game isn't necessarily a bad signal, but sometimes it is. Now, I do think the main reason there are a ton of studios credited for Modern Warfare 2 is because, obviously, the past couple years, things have been pretty crazy with the world, and it's definitely affected the amount of people that can obtain a next-gen console, or even get them produced, an Xbox Series X or a PS5. A lot of people are still having trouble getting their hands on them, and most gamers that play Call of Duty right now, the majority of them are still on this older generation of consoles for the most part, so they still have to develop the game for old gen. And it's my prediction, again, I'm not sure, but I think Infinity Ward itself is probably working on, the newest gen version of the game, and these support studios are probably making the last gen version. This is the exact same scenario that Call of Duty Ghost found itself in. Now, am I saying that Infinity Ward has had a troubled development with Modern Warfare 2? Not necessarily, and in fact, probably not. I think they probably started immediately on MW2 right when Modern Warfare 2019 released. So I'm sure that they've had a lot of time to flesh out these ideas and develop these things. But again, the fact that there are a million support studios on this, to me, at least always raises an eyebrow, if not is taken as somewhat of a bad signal sometimes. But I don't know what to make of that exactly. You guys can let me know if you think having a million studios on the project is a bad thing, but all things considered, I am still very excited for Modern Warfare 2. I was a big fan of the trailer. I liked the gameplay we've seen so far, and I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it, but there are a few questionable things that do definitely raise an eyebrow for this game, so we'll have to wait and see in a little bit when it does release to everybody. But anyways, that's pretty much all I got for you guys today. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're brand new, and I'll see you guys in the next one.